what are the barriers that employers are putting in front of underrepresented types of talent? And then how do you help them fix that process?
The amount of times I've said, well, I would love to have different kinds of candidates, but we don't get enough applications.
Right.
It's like, well, but we have to go where the candidates are. We have to speak to the candidates in the way they need to be spoken to. So we need to think differently. And one of the things that always amazes me is that when you get a job description or job spec through from a client and it's got 450 different requirements on it,
right?
The more requirements you have on a job description, the less diverse the talent pool is going to be. Right?
Sure.
It's a truism, right?
I read that women are less likely to apply for a job unless they meet like 90% of the criteria, whereas men, if they match 50%, or I don't remember the exact percentage, but they're thinking, yeah, I could do that, and they'll go forward for it more often than women will.
And I've seen some of these things when I'm always a little bit suspicious of data and numbers, but there's definitely something in that. And for example, and I don't want to get too off topic, but you've got things like gender coding in job descriptions and job adverts. Okay. So if a man writes a job advert or a job description, it's got lots of masculine coded words, ambitious, driven, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this is based on a piece of research by the Wharton Business School and the American Psychological Society. So it's not me saying that because it can sound quite patronising. And then if a woman writes a job advert, they're more likely to have more feminine coded words, support, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I've got a challenge around that topic, and you've done the research and I haven't, but I had this conversation with my wife recently that because I had read that if the word enthusiastic is a masculine word and you're going to put women off from applying if you use the word enthusiastic. And I was like, really? Is enthusiastic? So I couldn't.
Sounds patronizing, doesn't it?
I couldn't quite agree. Like the list of words that you should not use in a job ad, I couldn't quite reconcile that. And I said to my wife about enthusiasm. She was like, what? I can be enthusiastic. Why? And even she was like, that is a load of rubbish.
Yeah. I suppose on an individual basis, then absolutely. Personally, no, but we're talking about scale. We're talking about the data the research is based on a huge number of people. But what's interesting about it is that these are all kind of subjective words.
Yes.
We chuck subjective words into a job advert, right?
Sure.
But when you see a CV that says, I'm a driven, ambitious, you think, oh, come on.
That's true. But you don't believe it in a candidate.
You don't believe in a candidate, but you put it in a job advert. I could say, you know what, Mark, I'm a really ambitious person. You could say, well, no, you're not, Adam. I've worked with you for 10 years. You're the least ambitious person I know. It's so subjective, right?
Right.
So that's one thing you can do. So, that's a small part, but actually it's about engaging with talent. But having requirements on a job description, if we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got, right? Everyone knows that. So a lot of this is actually saying to clients, okay, so you've got 15 different things on there. What do you really, really need? What tends to happen with a job description is what's the first thing a hiring manager does when somebody leaves? They dig out a job description, the last one they had.
Right.
They'll think, well, what was that person doing? I'll just add some more stuff on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you've got this thing that's no longer fit for purpose. It doesn't match the person who left the business. They were never doing all those things when they started.
Yes.
So we're looking for something, we're diminishing the talent pool. So we continue to look for the stuff that we've already got. So of course, that is going to do, I've got to have all these, but do you? So
of course, that's just good recruitment practice anyway, isn't it? To challenge the job description, get as many things off the essential list as possible and put them on the desirable list. And let's make this job easier to fill, because otherwise you're going to go on a wild goose chase.
You're going to go on an absolute wild goose chase and challenge the job description. And if I told most recruiters here, I'll give you £1 million to find a unicorn trainer, they'll probably go and give it a go, right? But actually, not the desirable list. So for me, I was like, there's no desirable list. You either need it or you don't.
Okay.
So that's a good example about something but our clients say, I need 5 years experience. Okay, great. So you're just saying to me, if I've got someone who's got 4 years experience, I think it's great. You don't want to see them.
Right.
Oh, no, I do. Okay, what about if they're really good, but they got 3 years experience? We don't want me to send them? Oh, no, I do.
Right.
So we just established it's so being able to challenge the hiring manager. Now that was something that was really normal to me when I first started in recruitment, and I see it happening less and less and less. But also helping the hiring manager to understand, is this important? Like I would be asking questions like, hey, how important is it for you to hire different kind of talent? And they might say, it's not really important at all. Or they might say, and I say, okay, that's interesting. Why is that? So it's about having a conversation. Okay, here's why we might be putting barriers. Here's why we might want to think about about more diversity. Now, that might be about fairness, but it's also, we know that diverse teams outperform non-diverse teams. There's a reality. So it's about educating the client as well, getting them to think differently about the talent. And of course, that widens the available talent pool. But you can think about we talked about advertising, but you can talk about how you interview people, having a structured interview process. It amazes me how few organizations don't have a structured interview process where we ask candidates who are coming for the same job, not every job they ever recruit, but for this particular piece of hiring, asking all the candidates the same questions in the same order and then scoring them based on their answer.
Yeah.
That takes away a lot of bias.